It may surprise you that only 30 years ago, many of the buildings where you visit or work were completely inaccessible to people with disabilities. With a great deal of effort and commitment, people with disabilities organized and forced America to pay attention to building access. Since first signed into law in 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act has made sweeping changes to American buildings, structures, and accessways. There are a stunning number of details in the ADA and its revisions. Feel free to look through all of the requirements at the website www.access-board.gov. We would like to show you some of the basic parts of the ADA that you may see in your own day-to-day journey through life. Remember that the ADA is an important part of the legacy and history of people with disabilities. There are 4 main areas called building blocks that the ADA uses as a basic guide. 1. Floor and ground services. 2. Ground space or turning space. 3. Operable parts. 4. Protruding objects. In our tour of the ADA, we will address each of these building blocks.
Today, almost all government-owned or public buildings are ADA compliant, which means they are accessible to most people with mobility, vision, or hearing disabilities. Most aspects of the entrances, exits, and interiors meet guidelines that allow people to navigate. Let's start with the first area you will encounter when visiting a public building, the parking lot. There will be a specified number of parking spots and van spaces for people with disabilities. The number of those spaces depends on the total spaces allocated for that building. For example, if there are 100 to 150 total parking spaces, the law requires allocation of 5 standard accessible spots and 1 van accessible spot for people with disabilities. The surface must be concrete or asphalt. There must also be a clear access route and signs indicating parking spots and signs to the door or entrance you will use. The surface must be hard and free of debris or deterioration. Curb cuts and curb ramps that bring a person from street level to sidewalk level come in a variety of shapes and sizes. The requirement for new construction is a ramp that is 12 inches long for every 1 inch rise in sidewalk height, or a slope of 1 to 12, accessing a sidewalk that is a minimum of 4 feet wide. In your personal travels, you will undoubtedly come across curb cuts that do not meet the 1 to 12 slope requirement. These may be older buildings and sidewalks, and the curb cut is an add-on. They may be steep and difficult to negotiate.
Let's go in. At many buildings these days, access is pretty straightforward. At the main entrance, you push the blue panel and voila, the door opens. At times, you may not be using the main entrance. You might be going to a security area for clearance or to a historical building with a side entrance and a manually opening door. In an industrial or commercial setting, there must be signs indicating where you enter. There has to be a ramp to the door if it is elevated in any way. The door has to have a handle, not a knob, and the door has to open with a mere 5 pounds of force, which is very easy. The handle, instead of a knob, is one of the operable parts requirements. Other operable parts that you will see that have specific requirements under the ADA are electrical outlets, sink faucets, alarm poles, fire extinguishers, and drinking fountains. The door handle can be no higher than 48 inches and no lower than 36 inches. As you would expect and hope, the floor has to be hard and smooth, with plenty of room to maneuver. This maneuvering room is called turning space. Turning space is one of the critical building blocks of the ADA. It means that whenever you approach any area, there will be enough area to turn a wheelchair and maneuver effectively. The minimum dimensions for turning space are 30 inches by 48 inches. You made it inside. Good job. Here, we like to see smooth floors, plenty of light, no protruding obstacles, and plenty of room to maneuver. Many inside doors will have the same requirements as exterior doors. There must be 32 inches from the door to the other side of the door frame. Any door that opens automatically needs to swing open outside of the clear space next to the open panel.
Any door that opens to face another door must allow one door to close before opening the other door. This space is 48 inches from the end of the open door to the front of the next door. Again, this is called turning space. Floor and ground surfaces are another building block in the ADA. Accessible floor and ground surfaces must be stable, firm, and slip resistant. Carpeting needs to be a maximum of 1/2 inch total, including the pile and backing. Any mats must have a stiff backing to avoid rolling or bunching. Protruding objects are another building block requirement in the ADA. In a corridor, nothing but a handrail may protrude from the wall more than 4 inches. A handrail may protrude 4.5 inches. Phones, charging stations, trash receptacles, and drinking fountains need to be placed in a recessed area so they will not protrude more than 4 inches into the corridor. The lowest point of any mounted object must be a maximum 27 inches from the floor. This allows detection of the object with a cane sweep. This also allows the knees of a person in a wheelchair to fit under the object.
If you ride the elevator, a sliding single door needs to be at least 36 inches wide. A double sliding door needs to be at least 42 inches wide. The smallest elevator allowed is 68 inches wide by 51 inches deep. That is a small space if you're in a wheelchair. Elevator doors must remain open for at least 3 seconds. The floor must comply to same standards as hallway floors. The lighting must be at least 5-foot candles, which should be plenty of light. All of the previous requirements apply to public restrooms. The door must be easy to open with 5 pounds of push maximum. The floor must be hard and free of obstacles and must open allowing for adequate turning space. Stall doors usually open outward, but are allowed to open inward and intrude on the turning space as long as there is enough space to maneuver. Sinks need to be wheelchair accessible.
There is a great deal of history behind people with disabilities. As you travel through your area, going to work, visiting a friend, or going on vacation, remember that many people had to advocate strenuously to change the laws and gain accessibility to buildings, transportation areas, and voting areas. Now it is your turn. Work with your neighbors and your community. Look for issues and problems and then help find ways to make the situation better. It is your responsibility, your legacy, and your future.